Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell in the upper right-hand corner. Follow me on all forms of social media. Check me out at thatdrummerguy.com and enjoy the following presentation. Yeah, that's strange how that works, but yeah, I mean, we got it working now, so it's good to hear from you, and it's great to be able to catch up now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a while. I think I probably haven't seen you since like 2015 in person.
Yeah, that's about right. It was you guys playing at the Triple Rock.
Yeah, man, that was the first Amiensus show ever, and it's really embarrassing to look back at. I have video of it, and I'm just like, oh gosh, we were just kids.
Yeah, but you guys have like improved so much in the last 4 years, and you in general, I mean, everything that's happened since that time. I mean, with everything that you got going on with Amiensus, Fail to Decay, Nott, Chrome Waves. I guess the first question I have for you with all this is, how the hell did you have time to be able to do an interview with me?
Like straight after this, I mean, like I do have hobbies and stuff, and I have a full-time job, but my schedule is super early in the morning, so I work 5:30 to 2 Monday through Friday, and so generally like afternoons are my like catch-up time / time to do stuff that I need to do, and I don't have kids or anything. I just my wife and I live in a house together, and we have 2 dogs, and usually right after work I take the dogs for like a 3-mile walk, which is about an hour, and I listen to a book and kind of decompress for my day and plan whatever is due after that. I guess I don't have a whole lot of other responsibilities besides work and being married, really, so.
Oh, that's awesome, and you know, it's just so cool to be able to see that you do have so many outlets now for like all of the different kinds of music that you're into, and of course with some stuff that's coming out in just a month's time roughly, and then everything else that'll be, I'm sure, working out in the future. I mean, it's great to be able to talk to you and be able to talk about everything that you got going on.
Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, I write music like only like maybe like 2 days a week or work on stuff. A lot of it is like behind the scenes, just normal stuff, working on artwork or getting stuff shipped. And I mean, I definitely plan to take days off. There's definitely a lot of time that I have to plan to take off. Otherwise, I would be busy constantly. And it definitely just freaked me out a few times. Every once in a while, I'm like, yeah, I'm just really overwhelmed right now. I'm just going to take a break from looking at my phone for a while. But it is nice to be able to be like, hey, I wrote this song, and it definitely doesn't fit in this band I intended it for, but I'm going to use it for this.
Yeah, it's awesome the way that works, and you know, that's great the way that you do have that scheduling the way that you do too, because when you do have this idea of like you just got to spend all of your time on this band or on that band, and then you just like become so overcome with everything, like it could feel like everything's going to start to collapse. But the fact that you do it that way, where you do focus so much on the behind the scenes work, and you just work a couple days a week on music itself, I mean, that's such a smart way to go about it.
Yeah, and I definitely do, like, there are definitely time periods where like one band will be working on recording and the other band will be like, let's play, like we just released music, let's go do this. And it's kind of weird. Like I go through phases of inspiration per band. That's definitely for sure. Like the last like 6 months has been really focused on writing, actually, kind of for a new project that's probably not, I don't know, it's gonna go somewhere. It's with a couple of the guys from Fail to Decay. It's not metal, but it's like something we just aim to play live eventually. So the last few months I've been really writing on that, but everything else, like Chrome Waves a little bit too, has been kind of the feature, and then wrapping up the Amiensus album. But I go through phases where it's like, all right, like the next few weeks I'm gonna work on just this band's music, and then like, all right, if I'm not feeling inspired to be writing it, I'm not gonna force myself, so I jump in and start doing this instead. Because otherwise, it is kind of a mess to be like, hey, I'm gonna write for like 3 different projects in a week.
Oh yeah, and yeah, I could just imagine how someone can become overcome with that. And well, I mean, you know, even included in that, like you were just talking about, like another project, being able to work on something with guys with Failed to Decay. I mean, however that does turn out, I mean, that's awesome to see that there's even more inspiration coming up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, initially I wrote some songs and I was like, these don't feel like metal enough to be in anything, but that's not to say like Chrome Waves and Amiensus definitely have like totally non-metal inspiration in a lot of songs, but they just didn't feel like it was like quite along that or in that vein of like either being kind of like post black metal with chrome waves or being like not. I mean, like there's a lot of not black metal elements to Amiensus too, but it didn't fall into like the more like folky elements that we traditionally fall under when we think of like the non-metal pieces. So honestly, it's totally like a grunge meets shoegaze type stuff that's going on, and the three of us have been jamming for like a couple months back and forth and have like 8 songs. So we'll see if it goes somewhere. I mean, mostly I was just like, being in the metal industry, you don't make any money, and I've definitely spent like over 15 grand of just my own cash this year being able like just to tour and have a vehicle and a rig and stuff, and that's not smart. So I'm trying to play something that I both like and haven't done, and might be able to make some money on the side, even if it's not something that I want to turn into like a touring gig.
Oh yeah, and it's important to have that in that aspect too. I mean, if there's a way that you can make money off of your art and still be happy with the music that you're making, and yeah, I mean, that's a really good point about being able to spend that much money into metal and just being able to tour and stuff like that. I mean, especially when you don't have that kind of label backing and stuff like that. I mean, it can be so rough to be able to pull that off, but I'm still glad to see that everything is still going forward with all of your endeavors, and you still have time to be able to work on others.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm thankful that like initially when I joined Fail to Decay second after I'd been doing Amiensus for a couple of years, and initially I thought it was going to be like a conundrum. I think I was just young and assumed that like, oh, they're going to be like, you're not loyal to this band if you're doing this other band on the side, and then it kind of just kept going, and I kept saying yes to things, and here I am, and honestly, at almost 30 now, nobody cares, so it's cool. It's nice when your bandmates like support you being in other bands and just know that like, hey, you have something else that you like to do too. That's fine.
Oh, totally. And with that in mind too, I mean, it's great to see that some of the projects that you've been a part of has been getting some major attention over the last couple of years as well. I mean, like with Chrome Waves, like with Nott, I've been seeing a lot of people have been supporting that as well. I mean, and of course Amiensus as well. I mean, with the people from around the world that have been able to either contribute or bring in everything to the world. I mean, that's just so cool.
Yeah, it's totally really cool. Not gonna lie, like I've only been to Canada. Outside of the United States on a tour or to play shows. But it's always really neat when you're like last year, Amiensus was over in Vancouver and Kelowna, British Columbia for the last 2 dates of our tour, and just like not just running into people we knew, but like meeting people that knew our music already. I was like, oh, okay, this is like cooler than I expected. Like I was a little, I'm not gonna say I had like an ego about it. I just felt like way more proud than I expected to when people came up and were like, oh, I remember discovering Restoration on Bandcamp in 2013, and I felt like I was the only nerd that was perusing Bandcamp for years looking for black metal back in the day. But yeah, it's neat. It's really neat, and I love the like Spotify artists and the Bandcamp artist editions that let you see like where people are streaming from. Like I knew where people were ordering merch from, but it's really cool to see like our top plays usually aren't in the U.S. for Amiensus. It's kind of weird, but it's like usually like Finland and the UK over the US. So yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, totally. And as cool as it is to be able to do like a local show and people are saying that they dig what they hear and stuff like that, of course, as well as I do, people are going to say that regardless of even hearing your music or not. But the fact that there's people like around the world that are actually checking things out, actually checking out Bandcamp, getting the merchandise, and wanting you guys to play over there, even if it's not feasible to be able to do that yet, that's just so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we tried to make a Europe thing happen with Amiensus too, and admittedly, it's just like we couldn't drum up enough interest to do more than like a week, and basically anything less than that was just too like it costs like at least $5 to $10 to do a tour in Europe, being an American, and you're not going to make that up with like $200 guarantees like we get over here. So that's how it is.
Oh, totally. But I mean, that is the great thing about things like Bandcamp and social media in general, is just like being able to drum drum up that audience from around the world, and like getting like a major metal publications caring about any of the projects that you've been a part of. I mean, the fact that I've seen like Chrome Waves covered by so many different outlets in the last year or so is just mind blowing.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was a little like patting myself on the back when Decibel and stuff I posted our stuff. I was like, oh shit, I never thought this would happen in my life. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Oh yeah, and you have every reason to feel happy about that too. I mean, when it is something like Decibel being able to show things off and such an amazing write-up about it too, I mean, that was well earned for everything that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry about that. I have 2 dogs, and UPS is here. So.
No worries at all. So, and speaking of Chrome Waves, I got a nice little message from you a couple days ago about some new Chrome Waves, and I really enjoyed what you sent in my way. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so for like the last year or so that I've been really working with Jeff on Chrome Wave stuff, we've always, like we kind of have some shared experiences. We toured together once in the past and stuff too, but like I think a lot of our musical taste that was similar was a lot of really non-metal stuff, specifically like along the like more alt-rock shoegaze genres. And like like the last full-length album that came out in March, A Grief Observed, was obviously like a little bit of like post-black metal, so like a little shoegaze influence meets like melodic black metal. That's how I describe it. I know everybody probably finds like a little bit of stuff in there, and that's not to say there's not other influences too, but when we set out to do the EP, like initially we wrote like 2 or 3 of these songs last year before we finished the full-length album. We were debating whether or not to put them in the full-length album. So when we didn't, we were kind of like, all right, we have some songs that have a little bit in common. Where should we go from there? And neither of us had ever done covers to like any degree. Like I've done one cover before in the past, and that was for Amiensus actually, and that was like back in 2014, and it was a folk metal song by Forefather. So when we were like, hey, let's do something not metal for once and just see where it goes from there. So we started with Slow Dive, and we did release that cover a while ago, and then we did a Nirvana cover, and then I believe it's sometime in the next week we should be releasing a Nick Cave cover, and we actually got the name of the band from a Nick Cave song from Ride, technically. So in any case, the other songs were mostly just like instrumentals that we had passed back and forth and added onto, but they're not instrumentals obviously anymore. So I've always wanted to play acoustic on an album, and like in the past Amiensus, like I wrote a fair bit of guitar on some of the albums and stuff there, but I was not the acoustic player in comparison to the other guys. They're like just way beyond talented, and I'm way beyond pedestrian at acoustic guitar. But I bought a 12-string last year, and that ended up being on a lot of stuff that you'll hear. So that was really fun. I guess I have a little bit of skill at playing chords at least, so I figured that out. And I took it from there. I like layering stuff because intricate guitar riffs are not my forte, but like layering lots of harmonies and parts are usually something along the lines. And Jeff and I really found that we worked together well on that. So
that's incredible the way that turned out to be. I mean, whether it was stuff that was either instrumentals or B-sides eventually worked into full songs, and then being able to show off some covers, some that have been released, some that are soon to be released. I mean, when I first heard that Nirvana cover, I mean, it was incredible the way that you guys did something in the way, and I just love the way that you did that. And I thought in the back of my mind, I thought it would be just so cool to see what you guys could do with other covers in the form of Chrome Waves, and it's great to be able to see that in some aspect going on with this upcoming release.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think that's like for the first time ever, I've been like, it would be cool to continually do like a steady release every year of a few different covers of like way different bands. Like, Slow Dive is shoegaze and Nirvana is Nirvana. I mean, they're their own sound. They basically were part of the giant grunge movement, but besides that, Nick Cave is like an indie artist. So yeah, I mean, we just want to do non-traditional metal stuff, and we're not doing it in a metal way, like a metal bands tend to do, like take songs and turn them into metal songs. Like that's not our objective, but we are trying to put our own spin on these songs, so they're not going to sound like identical covers.
Oh yeah, and that's what I appreciated about it too. I mean, it's not like full-blown black metal covers that are going on here. I mean, yeah. It's got some great heavy atmospheric feeling that's going on there, but staying true to the original songs. I mean, it's a cool mix.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and along with the Chrome Waves release, you also sent me some more music from Nott, which is just it's awesome to see that release is coming so soon as well too. Because I loved what happened with the EP, and it's great to be able to see like a full-fledged release going on now.
Thank you. Yeah, I I had written most of those songs at the same time I did the EP too, and for the most part, I just didn't really have. I don't know. I'm not a drummer, and so I worked with another local musician. Well, he's based out of the cities, but named Roman Pincer, and Roman ended up doing all the bass and drums, and he even played saxophone on this one. So that was really cool. Added a new element to something that I didn't have any experience playing and didn't know how to program either. So yeah, I'm stoked on these songs. They were written basically sometime last year, but we decided to keep it all in house and just do all the production ourselves. So it honestly could have been released earlier, but we wanted to be picky and do it on our own instead of paying somebody to do it. And that turned out to be a really fun experiment because Roman honestly is a fantastic sound engineer and is way beyond my capabilities. I'm capable enough to produce decent sounding demos, but that dude knows his shit as far as mixing and mastering, and it was really cool to actually work with somebody. I play bass, but he plays bass, if you know what I mean. He's an actual bass player. I'm just a guitar player who learned to play bass to play in a band. So yeah, it was really neat, and I'm really proud of that material. It's honestly probably one of the best albums I've done, in my opinion, out of any of my bands. And I'm not saying that because I was the sole writer for this material. I'm saying that just because it felt the most natural to put out, and that's kind of what is important to me now that I've been doing this for a decade. Is just play what feels right. Don't force yourself into a role where you're not enjoying what you're doing.
Oh yeah, and that's so important. And I actually really have to agree with you on that sentiment. I mean, I love what's going on with this release. I mean, I think it might be my favorite material that you've done to date on any of the bands and projects and releases that you've been a part of, for the reason that it does sound so natural to what I know that you enjoy, but it also has some of the most diverse sounds that's going on in one single release. I mean, there's not a single song that sounds like each other, but it all fits together so well in album form. I mean, whether you have a song that does some amazing saxophone, or it goes more into the atmospheric route, or it's just full-blown black metal. I mean, it's got a little bit of something for my musical taste as well, and it's great to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely had a actual conscious thought of trying to pull it all in when I was writing a little bit, because at first I felt like I was too narrow on it, and I was all of these songs are starting to sound a little bit similar. So when I had pretty much written all the guitar, I went back and was all right, how can I keep this fresh? So I appreciate you did notice that, and I don't know, maybe somebody else will think it sounds too much of the same, but to each their own. It's not a personal attack if somebody doesn't like my music by any means, so I don't mind if they don't.
Well, I mean, if they're not into this one, I'm sure that you are a part of a band that someone might enjoy as well too.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, and
I'm just trying to cover every genre right now. It seems like.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that ska-core album to come out at some point.
I know the right people to do that, but it's not on my radar yet.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, getting back into these two releases, I'm not sure if there's official dates on when they're coming out or not, but it's great to see that it is in that fall territory where both Chrome Waves and Nott are getting releases, because they do feel like end of the year, kind of that dark despair kind of feeling, and it's cool to be able to release that at the end of the year.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what it is, but for the last 9 years that Spotify has been around, basically, I've kept year-end lists. Not just year-end lists, but throughout the year, me and some of the guys from Amiensus actually have always been together on making playlists of stuff we like throughout the year. So every time an album comes out, we just throw it on this playlist. And sometimes we don't share it till the end of the year. Sometimes we share it before then. And I've really felt this last year, my list, I don't know if it's just I've been busy or not, but my list is really short compared to the last 8 years. And now all of a sudden fall picks up, and I'm seeing all these albums drop, and I'm oh shit, these are all really good albums. And I feel there were definitely quite a few albums at the beginning of the year and this summer summer that I liked, but like everything I liked a lot has been coming out since like August, and so I'm really happy to be releasing like a fall album, because for the most part, like the last few times I've released albums, it's been like summer and spring, and you know, right around the time year-end lists start coming out and stuff, it's going to be like beginning of December, and I kind of wanted to keep this like fresh in everybody's mind, kind of for the PR, but also like the timing of things just like wrapped up pretty well for it to be this time too. Like the production and everything lined up to be done at that point. So, but the moods of both albums definitely fit. Like the Nott album is definitely the heaviest and like darkest album I've ever written about, and the Chromates album was like only half of it did I write the lyrics for, since the other half were covers. But the covers are moody, like we talked about, and like super atmospheric for the most part. And the 3 original songs, like with maybe the side one of them is a little bit upbeat. I mean, in general, it's still like pretty dark and brooding. And the lyrics are specifically about fall. So yeah, you're right on this spot.
Yeah, and it's funny, you actually took the words out of my mouth about that too. I was going to say that's pretty smart promotion-wise to be able to have these released around the time of the end of the year list, because that's pretty much right when I start too. Pretty much like the end of October is when I start to write mine, because usually by then I usually get all of the May, November, sometimes December promos that are going to be coming out about that time. Usually I get things about like a month and a half. So I'm able to, unless I do my own searching, like on Bandcamp or something like that, all the main releases are my way already, so I can start working on those best of releases. So yeah, that was pretty smart, and yeah, they probably are going to end up on at least my year-end list as well too. I mean, not just for that reason, but it's a smart reason for others.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I like the last few. I think the last two Amiensus albums besides our split came out in like May and July, and I felt like the hype dies out pretty quickly with album cycles usually. So I was pretty stoked to be releasing 2 like end of the year lists, or 2 end of the year albums, because at least it's going to be like, oh, okay, we just listened to this album and we're still pretty stoked on it. So
oh, totally.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, I mean, with having both of these coming out towards the end of the year, and like you said, you have another project that's in the works for maybe something next year. I mean, even if it's just playing shows, maybe releasing something or something going on. But what's 2020 looking like for you?
All right. Well, there's definitely going to be an Amiensus full length next year. There will definitely be live Nott shows next year. That's just starting to shape up. There will definitely be a album release tour for Amiensus. Chrome Waves will be recording. I'm not sure if we'll be able to put out the album in time, but we'll probably be. Or I know for sure we'll be recording next spring an entire new full length already too. Jeff and I just like throw stuff back and forth constantly every week, and so we're just kind of building that library of stuff we want to do. And unlike kind of like with like Nott and Amiensus and Fail to Decay, Fail to Decay fairly regularly jams, but none of my other bands have ever been able to because of geography. And so Jeff and I are going to rent a place, probably a cabin in Wisconsin or Minnesota, and just like get together with our microphones and jam it out, jam the album out, and then basically record it in that cabin, which is a pretty sweet idea. So, but as far as live stuff right now, I feel like I'm super I'm super underwhelmed with my life because I don't have any tours booked right now, and this is probably like the first time since 2013 I haven't had to prepare for one of those. So 2020 will probably be a little bit of recording and a lot more playing live. Unlike this year, I only did a little bit of Chrome Wave stuff and a couple Amiensus shows, and then a couple Fail to Decay like short runs and stuff too. So next year there'll probably be this year was the first year I played live with 3 bands, so next year will be, I'm trying to hit 5. So yeah, I have one band I haven't mentioned that I need to give a shout out is Adora Vivos. It was an EP that we put out in 2013 called Toward the Empyrean, and it's featuring some of the guys from Amiensus too, and it's a doom band named after the late Woods of Ypres. And of course we have 2 albums of material, and at some point we probably need to get together and finish it before we're all dead. So
You know, it's funny, that was actually going to be my last question, is what was going to be the state of Adora Vivos, and it's great to see that that there is like so much back songs that are going on there, because I mean, Towards the Empyrean is one of the best EPs that I've ever heard. I mean, obviously with the Woods of Ypres love and inspiration that's going on there, you're able to forge your own sound with it as well. And I've just been chomping at the bit ever since that came out for a second release. And I'm glad to see that hopefully at some point that there will be another release.
There definitely will be. It's one of those things. So Joe Waller and Joe used to be in Amiensus, and he's now been in Sarah's Body, and he has some of his own stuff coming out next month, which is super cool. He's kind of keeping it really low key. He shouldn't be keeping it low key because Joe is one of the best guitar players I've ever met in my life, and one of the most creative people I've ever met in my life. So shout out to you, Joe. He's one of my few bandmates that actually live in the same town as me too. But Joe and I wrote two Adora Vivos albums between 2017 and 2018, and essentially have worked very, very little on it this year because it's like a project where we have to both be in like the right mood at the right time to do it. And I think that's because Adora Vivos started off like in a fairly dark place when we were doing it, and that's like when we write the best. But I'm not saying like 2017, 2018 was a dark place and I need to be like depressed to write music, because I definitely don't. But it's got to be like the right time and place. And yeah, I'll definitely be able to send you some of it at some point. It's really good. I'm gonna put it that way. It's probably the best material I've ever been a part of, and that's including like Nott, Chrome Waves, Amiensus stuff. Like, I'm super proud of every band I'm in, and I love everything that I do and I put out. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. But this Adora Vivos stuff is really good. So it's got this kind of like small cult underground following, and we get messages constantly about it. And I'm really happy that people even remember it, since it's been like almost 7 years since we put out music. But we'll see. I don't know. I can't promise anything, because every time I do, I fail to deliver on it.
I thought that was going to be a pun for Fail to Decay, but keep going.
It should have been a pun for Fail to Decay. It should have. And I will say that I'll give one shout out to my Fail to Decay bandmates, because they're some of the easiest going. They got me to tour in the first place before every other band started doing stuff. And so I got to give them props, because we're the only band that's the same 4 members that I've been in the entire time. That's just remained the exact same. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's nice to like have a group of dudes that you like never have to worry about getting in arguments over like the direction of the band or stupid stuff on tour or anything like that.
Oh yeah, and I've gone through so much of that, and I imagine that you have as well, just like going through the ringer when it comes to like different members of a band and different shows and I'll just keep it real, different bands around the states and stuff like that. And it's just like there's so many variables that can lead to negative things happening in your own band. And the fact that Fail to Decay has been able to keep the same 4 members and still wanting to keep going forward and still playing shows, writing music, and even doing an offshoot band now too. I mean, that's just so cool. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's honestly, the offshoot band is a little bit of a play on the fact that we've been together for so long, and that we're all getting older. So I'm not going to spoil it, but I'll let you know what the name of the band is after. It's just so you can have a laugh. Oh, I'm looking forward to that. And, I think with that, I think that's actually an amazing note to end on. And thank you so very much for taking the time to be able to talk to me about everything that you got going on. And there's so much that I could probably do an interview for every band that you've been a part of, but it was great to be able to talk about everything that you got going on. The new Nott album, the new Chrome Waves EP, Amiensus coming out next year, Fail to Decay continuously touring, and new material on the horizon, that offshoot that's going on, possible Adora Vivos in the future. I mean, it's just like there's so much that's going on with you, and it's so awesome to see that from my end, just like watching you grow up with different bands and stuff, finally being able to see Amiensus live for the first show at the Triple Rock, and then seeing how much you guys have skyrocketed in that time. I mean, I'm just really proud of everything that you've been able to accomplish, and with that, I thank you for taking the time to be able to talk to me.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, I'm honestly I'm happy to talk about it, because it's cool that people are interested in anything I do at 28 years old, when I'm just an average person, living my normal life. And it's cool that people still care at my age that I do things. Most of my friends could care less about what I do in music, so it's always fun to talk to somebody about it who enjoys it.
Oh, totally. Before we wrap things up, is there anything else you'd like to mention that I hadn't brought up yet?
Well, I know we could have a conversation about the state of the music scene in the great state of Minnesota that we're both from. from.
Oh, yes.
You're actually from Wisconsin, aren't you?
Well, originally from Wisconsin, but I live in Burnsville now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, yeah, we could have a great discussion about that. I'm sure that would be like an entire another episode or two.
Oh, totally.
About our experiences in there. But no, I'll just say, thank you very much for having me on. The Chrome Waves EP, The Cold Light of Despair, will be out on November 8th. And there's no exact date yet, but Nott's full-length album is going to be called The Great Furnace and should be out at the end of November. We've just got a little bit of work to do. All the music is finished, but there's some other behind-the-scenes stuff that we have to finish before we have a exact release date.